Yo, how's it going, everyone? This is Mitchell Mander here, and welcome to another review of the Pokemon Journey series. We'll be covering episode 66 in today's review. It involves Ash and Go heading back to the Kalos region, this time to help out Go's white flower Flabebe find a new white flower because the Flabebe's current white flower lost one of its petals, so yeah, it needs a new flower here. So Ash and Go decide to help it out. So, how was the episode overall? Well, before I get into that, if you're new to the channel, you like this type of content, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. It'd be pretty cool if you did that. Anyways, let's get into the episode review. The episode begins with Ash and Go hanging out at the Sock Rocky Labs, watering some plants and some of the grass Pokemon. They're having a fun time. Meanwhile, Go's Flabebe are actually having a little race over here. And 4 out of the 5 Flabebe end up evolving into Floret. However, one of the Flabebe, the white flower one, is actually struggling quite a bit. It turns out that one of its petals has actually fallen off, so it can't really fly properly or float around properly. So Ash and Go decide to help out the little guy by going to the Kalos region and getting a new white flower for the Flabebe. So Ash and Go are in Kalos looking for this white flower, and it's funny because they end up putting away Flabebe's original flower. So Flabebe ends up actually going to Go's hair and tugging on his hair. And that's where Flabebe hangs out for the majority of the time. It ends up tugging on Go's hair, basically telling it where to go. He's basically controlling Go, as Go says. So they end up going to the location where Flabebe's white flower was actually located at. It turns out that a rock has fallen on it, flattening it. So, yeah, they're going to have to find the white flower in a different location. So they end up calling it a night, so they head to the Pokemon Center. They call Professor Sakuragi, who basically tells Ash and Go that the white flower is actually rare. It's not going to be easy to find, but he'll try and help out in whatever way he can. So they end up going to bed, and it's interesting here because Go actually has a night stroll with Flabebe, who seems to enjoy the night for some reason. More on that in a little bit. So the next day comes, and Ash and Go spend the entire day trying to help Flabebe find a white flower. Every time they think they found it, unfortunately it's not what Flabebe wants. It's not the white flower that Flabebe needs and uses, so they're unsuccessful, and they end up camping for that night, and they end up falling asleep, and Go actually sees in the middle of the night, he actually wakes up thanks to Grookey, but ends up actually spotting Flabebe getting into its flower, its original flower, and trying to float off again, but is once again struggling, which Go swears that he's actually going to help out Flabebe the next day. They'll find the white flower for sure. Now, the next day comes, and as Go is wondering if Flabebe here actually likes the night, he ends up getting a call from Professor Sakuragi, who has actually got something for them. He actually points them in the direction of a lady who might know something. So Ash and Go head to this lady's house, and she has a Florges, who immediately takes a liking to Flabebe here. As it turns out, Florges here actually lost its petal as well. So it understands what Flabebe is actually going through here, though this one's actually orange. It ends up using grassy terrain, which Flabebe actually likes quite a bit. And this lady actually ends up telling Ash and Go that, hey, there's a researcher friend of mine that actually spotted a cluster of white flowers northwest of here, towards the mountain. You should go check it out. So Ash and Go head out. Now while they're on the bus heading towards the white flowers, Go and Flabebe are actually talking, and Go actually mentions to Flabebe that, hey, maybe one day you'll have a garden of your own, just like Florges. You know, one day you'll have your own white flower garden. So, they end up arriving, and they spend, again, most of the rest of the day searching for the white flower, and they're once again unsuccessful. They end up actually stumbling across a bunch of flowers, which are actually pink. So they end up skipping past it, but Flabebe actually looks very interested in these flowers. But they're not the white flowers, so they end up walking away. But later on, as it's getting towards evening, Flabebe ends up pulling Go in the direction that they were just walking in, and end up going back to the pink flowers. So by the time they reach the pink flowers, it's basically dusk at this point. But Ash and Go are wondering, why in the world did we come back? These are pink flowers, these are not the white flowers we're looking at. Why did we come back here? As it turns out, as soon as the moonlight hits the flowers, they instantly bloom and turn white. So Go finally understands why Flabebe here likes the night. It's because that's where its white flower initially bloomed. So that's what Flabebe was looking for the entire time. So, nice. Flabebe gets a new white flower. So neat. And then another Flabebe shows up and gets its own white flower and takes off, but there's still one left. And Ash and Go wonder if if the flowers are still going to be there, or they're just going to wither away. Flabebe looks a little sad, and it decides to try and use grassy terrain just like Florges used back at that lady's house. And it ends up evolving into Floret as a result, and ends up using grassy terrain to cause more white flowers to bloom. Nice. But as it turns out, Floret here actually wants to stay here and tend to its garden. Just as Go was talking to it on the bus, and that one day it will get its own garden to tend to, it looks like today is the day. So Floret decides to stay behind as Ash and Go head back to the Kalos region. So Go releases Floret. Grookey is quite sad as Grookey is bonded with the Pokemon, but this is Floret's decision, and Go is content with it. So the episode comes to an end with Ash and Go leaving for Kanto as Floret stays behind in the Kalos region to tend to its new garden. Okay, so overall, I thought this episode was alright. I didn't think it was too special. It was a decent episode. I mean, the music was really nice in this episode. That's probably one of the highlights in the episode, I must say. The music was actually pretty spot on throughout this episode. And it was nice to see Go bond with one of his Pokemon before it departs. So, I'll get some positives out of the way. So those were some obvious positives for this episode. I also like the fact that, we're back in Kalos for the first time in a while. We could actually be visiting some characters that Ash kind of traveled throughout Kalos with. But, maybe we'll see them someday. Just not today. But it was nice to be back in Kalos. It's been a little while since we've been there, so cool. We need to get back to Alola sometime, by the way. But anyways, more on that at a later date. So another thing I liked in this episode is how Go was portrayed. So throughout this episode, I think it demonstrates very clearly that Go has actually progressed quite a lot as a character when it comes to how he understands his Pokemon. He understands their feelings and he's willing to help them out more. Because if this was early series Go, he would have had a different attitude in this situation. Probably not a totally different attitude, but I feel like he wouldn't be as understanding as he is now. I feel like Ash would be the one that was driving the plotline here to help out Flabebe. But instead we have Go, who has actually changed quite a lot. He's matured quite a lot. He's actually bonded with his Pokemon a lot more. So as a result, he's more understanding towards his Pokemon. So in this situation, he's helping out Flabebe, and is the one that decided to go to Kalos, and Ash tagged along with them. So that's nice. And then Go ultimately allows Floret, once it evolves and wants to stay behind in Kalos, it allows it to stay behind, and it understands why it wants to stay behind. So Go allows it to, decide for itself, and releases it. So it was nice to see that Go was understanding to its Pokemon, helped it out with its problem, and allowed it to stay behind in Kalos. It shows that Go has actually progressed a lot as a character, and he's changing. So, I like that. I know there's a lot of people that don't like Go, and this episode's not going to change anyone's opinions if they don't like Go. But in my opinion, I think this was a good portrayal of Go and how he's progressing as a character. That's just my opinion. That all being said, the main issue I do have with the episode is that Go releases his Pokemon. He bonds with the Pokemon in this episode, and that's all nice. The problem, though, is that we don't really get to see this white flower Flabebe before this episode. We don't get to see Go bonding with this Pokemon. Heck, we didn't even get to see Go capture this Pokemon because it happened off screen, which is kind of annoying, and it kind of cheapens the episode in my opinion a little bit, because the impact that this episode has is a lot less as a result. If this was a Pokemon that was shown a lot more, Go brought along with him on his various trips around the world, and it just shows up in more episodes before this, I think it would have had better impact. But because we didn't really get to bond with this Pokemon, we really only got this episode to bond with this Pokemon and understand its problems, and then its release at the end of the episode, I don't know. I just don't think it has the same impact as something like, Butterfree when it left, when Ash released it, Goodra when Ash released it, which that was actually a pretty good arc for Goodra, by the way, and then some other Pokemon that have been released in the series. I feel like they've had better impact and they've had better send-offs than this one had. I feel like if we would have spent a little bit more time with Flabebe before it evolved, and before this episode, I should say, I feel like the impact of this episode would have been a little bit better. That's Journeys, though. Journeys wants to be episodic and it wants to resolve plot lines in a single episode. So this is more of a problem with the series rather than this episode, I guess this situation as a whole. So it is kind of mildly disappointing that Flabebe here, we didn't get to bond with it more before this episode, but it is what it is. I do think that the episode, how Go was portrayed, was still pretty good, though, despite that. So that's all I got for this episode review. So overall, I thought this episode was alright. It's a decent episode. I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. So guys, in the comment section down below, what do you think of this episode? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Post your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you're new to the channel, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And I'll talk to you guys later.